Okay, what we got here is a stainless steel whirly pop. And I'm going to show you how to motorize this thing. I failed to actually take a shot of it before I added the motor and the coupling and all that stuff. So, this is different than the aluminum, because the aluminum version has a shaft and then a little plastic gear and then a shaft with a little gear on top. That would have actually been easier because then you can just mount the motor on top. But with the stainless steel version, it has this curved casing that goes down into the bale that spins, and that's like a spring shaft. Well, I ended up diving in and cutting off before I took a picture. So for those of you that have one, before the motor was added, it had this curved shaft, and then it had this knob on the end, and that's what would spin. And so to pop that off, if you look down in there, there was an E-clip that I just popped off with a small screwdriver, took that off. And then, as you'll see in the subsequent shots that I shot last night, this is my own version of Christopher Nolan's Memento. We're starting with the end and then going backwards. You'll see how I straightened out that shaft and added the motor and the coupling. But just to review, these are all parts that are available on Amazon. So this is a miniature worm drive gear motor. It was like 15 bucks on Amazon. I'll put the part number and link below. This is the coupling that I'm still jazzed about because it's got a helical cut so it can flex. So it allows for any misalignment in the shaft and the motor, and it'll compensate for that. And then this is the last piece, actually, is this connection here. I had to buy a whole pack for $6, so I've got an extra 5 of them. But I had this old cell phone battery charger, 200 milliamp, and it has a 5.5 millimeter barrel. So I just bought the mating part, the female, and I'll plug it in. I just soldered it up just a minute ago, and there you go. My whirly pop is motorized. It's a little noisy because I think that the pot acts as a drum, so it just kind of resonates the sound. And I still got to work on the made up position between the coupling, because I think it's still putting too much pressure on that thing down on the bale, but it's spinning just fine. I read online that this thing draws about 50 milliamps when running. Again, this charger here is a 200 milliamp rated charger, so plenty of amperage. It's 12 volt with this converter through AC. What else? I think that's it. So it's pretty simple. I'll show you the rest of the steps, and then I'll shoot one last video. I've got some Ethiopian beans that I've been wanting to roast up tonight, so I'll have a final shot of that in action. And yeah, it was pretty simple. So the coupling was about $6. The motor was about just under 15 bucks. $5 for the connectors, and I got extra. So 25 bucks, and I don't have to sit there and spin the dang thing while I'm roasting coffee, because Lord knows I don't want to sit there and spin the damn thing. Yeah. More time to drink. Yeah, so next shot I'll have it roasting, and check it out. It was actually really easy to do. Feel free to post with questions. Happy to help out, and yeah, give it a shot. Okay, so this is what we got for hardware. The handle off the stainless steel whirly pop, and unlike the aluminum ones, this is driven by kind of this flexible spring shaft, which requires that you mount the motor on the end. So what I did a little digging on Amazon was I found this Uxel worm drive motor, 12 volt. So this will just mount right on the end, By the way, I got this bracket off a vibratory pump component that I replaced off my old Seaco espresso machine, but this is how the motor is going to mount on the end. And I got this old cell phone battery pack charger, 200 milliamp charger, and this only needs like 50 or 75 milliamps to keep it running. Even the stall, I think the stall amperage is like 750 milliamps, which is more than the charger, but the torque is pretty high on these things. I don't think it's going to be an issue. Remains to be seen. But anyhow, what I have to do in mounting hardware, oh, here's a really cool piece that'll couple the motor to the shaft, is this little coupling that has got this helical wire cut in it. And so this thing is semi-flexible. That means it gives me a little more tolerance for alignment of the shaft going through the handle, so it doesn't have to be exactly right on center. I thought that was pretty cool. So anyways, both of these parts I got off of Amazon, and I'll put the part numbers with links on the post below. I got M3 screw hardware to mount the motor. It's got these 4 mounting holes, and I'll drill some holes so I can mount that to the end of the motor mount. What else? I think that's it. Oh, I had to order the mating components to this. It's a 5.5 millimeter power adapter, and I got some plugs coming tomorrow. Of course, Amazon Prime, my friend out here in the country. And those will just solder up to these wire leads here. So when I'm done with my roast at the right point, I just pop that off and take it to the cooling rack. Anyhow, the big thing for me to do at this point is I gotta, this thing's gonna end up getting cut right about here. I'm pretty sure this is mild steel and not heat treated, but I'm gonna test it right here. I'm gonna heat it up with the blowtorch and flatten it out and make sure that that's doable without cracking it, and presume that that works out okay. I'll go ahead and flatten it out here, and then end up cutting the shaft right about a 1/2 inch in, or 1 inch, and then cut a flat on it similar to this flat cut on the motor, which will fit right into that coupling. So okay, as you can see, it's finally starting to heat up, get pretty cherry red there. Take it a little further. I'm not a metallurgist, so somebody may have some commentary on what I'm doing right or wrong here, but it seems to me that cherry red is good. All right, let's give this a shot. Knock my gin and tonic off the table. Take that a little further. Yeah, straightened out pretty well. So for our purposes, I'm not even going to bother trying to temper that, because again, I'm just going to cut most of that off and just grind a flat on there. So okay, now we'll do the inside bend. So while you're waiting for this thing to heat up, I recommend gin and tonic with bitters. I'm using Bombay Sapphire, but Hendrick's gin works well also. So just saying. All right, let's give that a shot. Nice. Another heat cycle. Okay, that is looking nice and hot. Let's see if we can finish flattening it on this heat cycle before it cools off too much. Hooah! Look at that. Okay. Again, it's a little wonky at that end, but that doesn't matter because we're going to be cutting it just like about an inch beyond that bend that I just straightened out. So I'll let this cool off and then we'll get out the Dremel and cut her off. Will kind of tell me what my spacing's like. And because the shaft is not that long on the motor, the coupling is going to be kind of cheated towards the motor side of it. So that's kind of the spacing right there. And so I'll just mark that right there, and it'll go about another ½ inch in. And what do you know? It's where I'd already kind of marked it with the, that's serendipity. Okay, made the final cut on that shaft, and just for reference, that's 37 millimeters long from the end of the wood handle. Now again, that's based on this spacing of this particular motor mount. So if you end up making your own, obviously you're gonna have to figure that out. Okay, now I am going to grind a flat on the end of that shaft. So the set screw on the coupling has something to grab onto. So I'll use the handy bench grinder for this, with appropriate eye and ear protection, of course. Let's see if that works. Okay, now you can see kind of the final arrangement for this. I did have to grind that flat, probably another 4 millimeters, so you could probably just cut off the shaft. So make it, let's say, 30 or 32 millimeters and have a shorter flat on that. But this is how the motor mounts to the motor mount, and it'll just be on the end of the handle here, and then the power supply will come up under the motor. And that's pretty much all there is. I'll get this thing wired up, and next shot we'll have it running. All right, so we are roasting, and the motorized whirly pop is in action. And haven't hit first crack yet, but I'm getting close. I can smell that hay smell. So far so good. The thing hasn't blown up on me. So looks like we're in business.